One. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Delusions of Grandeur. I'm your host, David Streggy, and here in the room with me, I have Boris, all the way from. And I am sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but I seem to have lost Boris for a moment. So we will get him back in the room momentarily. But my name is David Streggy. I run Delusions of Grandeur, and today we're going to go on about a film that was. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. Just trying to get my partner here in. So give us 1 second here. All right. So
Hello again.
there we are, ladies and gentlemen. So today we're going to go on about a film that I had Boris go on and watch, and I watched, and it was one that for I'd seen it once, and for many years I couldn't think of the title of it, and then finally I decided to, at the time, like 12 years ago or so, or maybe 10 years ago. I decided to ask the gurus over at IMDb, like who evidently pay attention to IMDb forums. uh, I pretty much told the scene, and they said, "Hey, why don't you try this movie?" And I tried it, and that was it. So, um, I mean, I've had some movies that I could never figure out, and that was one of them that IMDb actually figured out for me. So thank you to those who are on IMDb out there. I do not know your names, but thank you.
I,
But the film is called High Spirits, and it's directed by Neil Jordan, and it was filmed in 1988. And it is a horror fantasy comedy. I'm just going to read this little IMDb excerpt of what the film is about, and then I'll go into first impressions here. When a hotelier attempts to fill the chronic vacancies at his castle by launching an advertising campaign that falsely portrays the property as haunted, two actual ghosts show up and end up falling for two guests. So, what were your first impressions of High Spirits, my friend? Um, uh, Boris, what did you think?
well, today I watched this movie for the first time, and I actually liked it quite a bit. Uh, I think my only complaint is that the beginning maybe takes a bit too long. Like too many things happen until it really gets to the point where these real ghosts appear. But aside of that, it was a pretty good movie. It was a lot of fun. I liked it.
I liked it too. I I liked it overall, on a matter of fact. But the one scene that I could not get out of my head was this scene where a child was grabbed from this bar area. Except I didn't know it was a bar area at the time. I just knew that the kid was grabbed by tentacles from a portrait.
Ah,
So I when I asked about that particular scene, they came up with that. So um, so we have an aging patriarch of a theatrical company that has put together a haunted house to try to help this Peter Plunkett, who has inherited this house from his ancestors. And unbeknownst to him, the house is actually somewhat really haunted. It's just he does not know it.
yeah, but his mother knows it.
So he invites a bunch of people to bed and breakfast at the this castle that he somewhat owns. Uh, I say somewhat because he's hip deep in debt, and this is why he's trying to save his family's property. But he is struggling because apparently there is a renowned psychic or parapsychologist who has come along for the ride to debunk how haunted the place is.
Yeah, and he wasn't the only one who came there with a bad intention.
No, in fact, there is a priest that comes along for the ride. There's a very young Jennifer Tilly, black hair instead of like blonde hair. Jennifer Tilly, if you remember anything about her, she was actually later on, she became the bride of Chucky.
Ah!
And played in films like Daddy alongside Adam Sandler, and so on and so forth. So, um, but she is always very distinct. Her voice is always very distinct because it's very high pitched. But in any case, we have Steve Gutenberger playing Jack, Beverly D'Angelo, who plays Sharon, his wife, who are evidently a married couple, and they are having their own problems. Well,
Yeah.
what do you think about them two as a couple? Did you enjoy them as a couple?
Well, they were obviously a very dysfunctional couple, but they were pretty fun characters. Uh,
Yeah, Beverly D'Angelo's character Sharon evidently was a woman of the product of a very rich family because evidently she is the one who had the money, and they might have actually married way too young.
uh, yeah, and like she is all about business, and Jack is Jack is not so much, and
Well,
uh,
she's always trying to look her best, and seems to care more about clothes and her reflection in the mirror.
yeah, that too.
She's a bit like Handsome Smith, a bit. I mean, and she definitely is trying to um, trying to not have sex with Jack at all. And she assumes a lot that he just wants that or whatnot. And whenever he does seem to reach for her during the night, she rejects his advances. So I don't know what kind of a marriage that is.
Well, a very dysfunctional one, like I said. Yeah, I have to say, Jack was, in my opinion, a better character than her, but later on she became a fun one too.
Well, also as I mentioned, there was a parapsychologist that came along for the ride, and he is Malcolm, and him and his wife and his two or three children. Three children, I think.
Uh,
I think three children
yeah, I think so.
came along for the ride as well. Evidently, they were on a family vacation, although it seems like work was involved in this one. So he it has come there to debunk the theories that this place is really haunted. What do you think about his character? I mean, he is played by Martin Ferrero, and he actually plays the stiff lawyer that got eaten off of a toilet in Jurassic Park later on.
Ah, yeah, well, his character was pretty funny too. Actually, there was one scene with him that I found very memorable when he tried to leave the castle wearing an armor, and then he got hit by lightning, and he flew all the way back inside.
And then his hair stuck up all over the place. He, yeah, that scene was kind of classic, and that is the scene that kind of helped them stay one more night.
Yeah.
Because then he was like, I think we can stay one more night. So, now he has Mr. Plunkett has hired a theatrical crew to try to haunt the house. So he's got this younger girl like on hoisters outside at night, swinging her around the castle just to try to spook the nightly guests. And not only that, um, there's a stage that has movable waves and movable scenery where apparently it tells a story while someone is standing in front. If you push like a button or pull a lever, it like moves automatically on its own. That's kind of cool. And then of course there's also a bed that seems to spin around and around and
Oh,
around.
oh my, that scene was brilliant.
I mean, the different contraptions in this house that was pretty amazing, um, so to speak. So, um, but yeah. So also in the group that is spending the night, there is a priest, and he is played by Peter Gallagher, and of course, um, he seems to get together with Jennifer Tilly's character, which her name is Miranda, and she her bed starts to move, and he gets on the bed with her, and then they're both kind of brought together by this whole process, and there seems to be a whole school of nuns seems to haunt the place. I don't know. I don't know.
Mm.
I don't think they're part of the theatrical crew. I actually think they're part of the hauntings that go on in the castle.
I think so, yeah.
But there are all these uh, habits that nuns wear with no faces that appear to haunt the priest into jumping out into a lake, getting wet along with Miss Miranda. But this is when things start to go kooky, because apparently there is a murder that has happened in a closed off section of the castle that Steve Gutenberger's character Jack comes across by mistakenly on a drunken night. He mistakenly walks into a room thinking that it was his bedroom, when in fact it was a totally different bedroom. And in comes a woman played by Daryl Hannah, and she is followed by Liam Neeson playing her husband, who evidently there is a story that apparently that those two were supposed to have been married at one time, and somehow in a fit of rage he killed her, and
Uh,
so these ghosts, these spirits, are um, in a constant state of repetitive mode, repeating their actions. And so when Jack steps in the middle of it all, it kind of interrupts the projection of the repetitive spirits,
uh,
just for a moment, so that the two of these can meet. One is an English lady, and the other is Jack. And of course, you get to you now that their scene of enactment of murder is offset. The spirit of the male, the husband, starts to appear to Jack's
Wife.
wife. And there's a particular scene in the bathroom while she's taking a shower that was pretty funny. Why don't you tell us about that, Boris?
Yeah, it was a funny scene. Like she was in the shower, and Martin, the ghost, he appeared behind her, and she thought she didn't see him, and she thought he was Jack. So she asked him to rub her back and so on, and she didn't even immediately realize that it wasn't him, and then. But the way he rubbed her back was different from the way Jack usually does. So she realized it wasn't Jack, and she screamed because there was apparently another man in the tub. And then the real Jack came, and she was screaming like there was another man here. And he was like, "Oh, that's okay. He's a ghost."
Well, and I thought it was kind of funny that Liam Neeson's character, the husband, kept saying, "Oh God, what a woman!"
Yeah.
uh, every time he came across them, because that was when she was in the same room when they enacted the murder again, and the husband stopped and talked to her and tried to seduce her into whatever. Um, but eventually, um, the house started to come alive in the sense of, in fact, to try to show how haunted it was, because I think that all of the ghosts and ghouls and goblins and every thing that could haunt that house um, started to manifest itself uh, 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 to to the visitors, because I think they started to realize this was their last um, couple of days if they didn't show themselves, you know. and it
Yeah,
turns out it turns out that Mr. Plunkett's father has been visiting his mother all this time, and many of their ancestors were hiding in the walls.
yeah, I think they all were appearing to Peter's mother, from what I understood, right?
Correct, for many years. And I think the one thing that he would have wanted all this time is some advice from his father how to run it, or at least to tell him whether he was proud or whatnot. So um, I'm kind of glad that well, I guess as a storyline, I'm kind of glad that they got to talk. of course, of course, when he said, "Give your daddy a hug," he couldn't give him a hug because he wasn't there.
Yeah, yeah. Um,
But all of a sudden, the house became alive and it manifested some things, and I think I think the most amazing one was the part that I'm aforementioned, where the one kid was grabbed by these tentacles, and you saw that he was in the painting, and he was being waved back and forth, and they um, they threw a lifesaver at him, and it went straight around him, and they all had to pull him out of the painting or the moving picture.
Y- Yeah, or another interesting scene that I remember was when the kids threw a book at the TV, but it just flew right through the screen, and the woman on TV caught it and threw it back at them.
That was pretty funny too. Those
Yeah.
kids were, kids were kind of brats before that, anyways. So and then of course there was okay. This one was an actor. There was an actor in roller skates in a knight in shining armor uniform that was chasing the kids for a time, and then that's when dude threatened to leave and denounce his castle as being hokey and pokey, phony, phony baloney, or whatever you want to describe it as. The worst haunted house in the world.
Yeah, although I personally thought it wasn't really that bad. Okay,
No,
some things.
there was even a moment where I love this moment. Apparently, the husband took a bus from the nearby swamp and was chasing Jack's wife through the forest
Oh, oh
with
yeah.
the bus. And I think he kept saying, "Come here, wifey, wifey, come here." Oh
Yeah.
God, what a woman!
Yeah, he was pretty fun, and Actually, I must say he was really quite young back then. I
Oh
barely
yeah.
recognized him. Uh,
It was definitely a different role for him. I mean, you could tell that you know he was being a little theatrical and over the top, but that's what was needed for this. I mean, at one point he was stuck in a role for like many years, so finally he gets out of it, and he starts having feelings for Jack's wife, and um, they're evidently All Hallows Eve is coming up, so
uh,
apparently all ghosts become real for one particular day of the year.
yeah, and that led to some pretty strange things happening.
Yes, indeed. So, what did you think about Peter Plunkett as a character? That would be Peter O'Toole's character.
Uh, yeah, well, one thing I found unusual about his character is that at first it looks like he's going to be the main character for like the first half an hour or so, but then when the real ghosts appear, he kind of stops being so prominent, and we follow uh, Jack's character more. So that was something I found uh, a pretty unusual thing to do in the movie, but. Otherwise, as far as Peter goes, he was a pretty good character. Oh, nice.
So, that is my copy of the film. Daryl Hannah was often a character that they would go to for some of these roles. Um, and one of the things I wanted to mention is that this director is also the director of The Company of Wolves, which was a very good werewolf film. Very
Oh,
good. Also, he was the director of Interview with the Vampire with Brad Pitt and um, let's see. Oh yeah. Uh, who was that in Top Gun? Uh, what you call it? Tom Cruise.
oh, wow.
He was also. He also did In Dreams, The Butcher Boy, Breakfast on Pluto, and Byzantium, which was a somewhat lesbian vampire movie, um, and so on and so forth. So I think I even have a copy of The Crying Games somewhere, which it was another movie that he did. Um, but yeah, I have enjoyed some of his films, especially The Company of Wolves. We'll have to cover that one of these days. Um,
Oh, you could. Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet.
um, we'll have to cover Interview with the Vampire down the road too, just for the sake of doing so. But I'm gonna keep to the haunted house theme for right now, till we run out of them for the time being.
Yeah.
So, as long as you don't get sick of
Well, I don't mind them at all.
them. So, what did you think about some of the ghosts that haunted this particular home?
You mean the real ones or the ones created by Peter and his people?
The real ones.
Oh, well, of course, I found Mary and Martin the most interesting ones, but yeah, that's obvious, is they are the most prominent. Aside of them, Peter's father was also interesting. Uh, and uh, uh, let me think, was the woman in the TV a ghost too?
I believe that she was at least possessed by whatever was haunting them. And actually, this the one of the filming for this particular castle was done at Dromore Castle, County Limerick in Ireland. So this film was filmed in Ireland.
Oh, cool.
So it wasn't that it was England or anything like that. That it was Ireland that this was filmed in. So I like that that it was Ireland, Ireland.
Oh, wow. You can imitate the accent.
Of course, laddie. No, no petty fingers. No, just kidding.
Nice.
Why don't you come down for a good glass of boiled? No, I'm just kidding. Anyways, uh, so I I particularly like Scottish and Irish films. I mean, one of my favorite John Wayne films is not in fact a western. It is actually The Quiet Man, and that one's set in Ireland, and it's narrated by the priest in the story. So, to me, um, uh, I'll have to introduce you to that one because that one
Oh,
was kind of cool.
cool.
It's about a boxer who comes back to Ireland after having an incident where he had gone up against I think he had an incident where he boxed, he won, but the guy died from his boxing him, and so he went to where he was from um, to take up and try to buy his mother's cottage that she once had, and it was it was owned by a widow, but the widow was it was intricate because there one of the people who lived in town, he was also rich, but he had feelings for the widow Talon, and he wanted this cottage for himself, and he took an instant disliking to John Wayne's character, except his sister and John Wayne's character met, and they fell in love, and they married almost without the brothers' consent, and it was just kind of an interesting cast of characters because eventually things between them came to a head, and they were sparring with each other, and he dragged her all the way across town back to her brother and said, here, you can do with her as you please. And that's when they had an all-out brawl all the way back to town. So
Wow.
but in any case, that is neither here nor now. So let us. Okay, so what did you think about how this film ended?
Uh, well, I actually liked the ending a lot. Although when I look back on it, maybe it was a bit predictable. Although while I was watching it, for some reason, at that point, it didn't occur to me how it was going to end. But now, when I think of it, like it was the the obvious outcome that. Someone would die and someone come back to life so that both couples can stay together. Although one thing caught my attention from what I understood. I'm sorry, what were you going to say?
Nothing.
Okay, so from what I understood, Sharon's last name was Brogan, like she was the daughter of the man who Peter was in debt with, and Martin, the ghost that gets involved with her, his last name is also Brogan, and they get involved, but doesn't not their last names mean that they are related or something.
Yeah, they might be. His last name is Plunkett. At least that's the Plunkett Castle.
That's isn't that Peter's last name and Mary's last name, but I think Martin's last name was Brogan, if I remember correctly.
Correct. He was a little bit different name, I think, but they don't really say last names here on IMDb. So um, I assumed that Neeson's character. Let's see if I can come up with. Okay, so yeah, his name is Martin Brogan,
Uh,
and her name was Mary Plunkett.
oh, yeah, and that also reminds me, was it anywhere explained in the movie how Martin died, how he became a ghost? Like we saw that he murdered Mary, but what happened to him?
I think he went and killed himself um, from what he had done because remember when he was going through the motions and saying, "Oh God, what have I done? What have
Oh,
I done?"
yeah, yeah,
It
that.
seems like he took that dramatic notion and took and offed himself afterwards.
Oh, well, yeah, that would make sense.
So whatever the grievance that he did, I think it was more of an accidental death, but they were even in death. He was cursed to. Well, I'm not sure whether he was cursed, but obviously he was stuck murdering her over and over and over.
Well,
Maybe that
I
was partly his hell.
yeah, I think Mary actually did mention something about a cursed chain, from what I remember.
Yeah, which it was kind of hard to catch everything all at once, and but I enjoyed this cast of characters. I mean, I don't really think that they really needed Jennifer Tilly or Peter Gallagher, but they were fun characters, to say the least. Especially when afterwards when he was like, I don't think I'll be going back to the priesthood.
Yeah, that. Scene on the spinning bed definitely cost him his potential priesthood.
But also, what did you think about the the dancing that the couples were doing at the end there? I mean, I thought that was kind of an awkward scene because now the two couples are together and they were dancing with each other, like switching partners.
Yeah, that was a strange scene. I didn't see it coming. Like when Sharon died and Mary came back to life in her body, so that uh,
Well,
she
yeah,
and Jack can
they
stay together. And yes,
they could have left it like there when she was went into the dress, and they didn't have to have that scene. But I think that it's better that they did have that scene because then it made it a little bit more comical.
yeah, I didn't expect this final scene with all the four of them again. Like I thought after Mary and Sharon switched places, that Sharon and Martin as they are ghosts now. I thought they wouldn't appear again, but yeah, it was a pretty funny scene.
Oh yeah, I mean there were some enjoyable moments in this for sure. Um, what did you think about the special effects of this film? Do you think that they kind of really went all out with them?
Uh, well, at some points they were a bit obviously computer generated, but yeah, it wasn't bad. I have seen much worse. Uh,
Well, some of it might have been generated, and I think some CGI, some early CGI might have been used. I'm not sure because this was 1988. This was like in the very beginnings of when that kind of stuff might have been used. Let's
well,
see.
yeah.
Um, if I remember correctly. Let's see. What was okay? So the music was by George Fenton, and George Fenton was behind Groundhog Day. That was a good movie.
Oh, cool.
Have you ever seen that one?
uh, no, not yet.
Oh, that was a fun movie.
I'm sorry. What did you say? The title was.
Groundhog Day.
Oh, no, I thought so. I haven't seen it yet.
That stars Bill Murray, and he goes to Punxsutawney to tape the groundhog coming out, or at least sees his shadow, or something like that, and he's very sarcastic, and he ends up living the same day over and over.
Hmm.
So
Um,
I guess he was a composer of the Fisher King. Let's see, Shadowlands, the composer of Mixed Nuts, Mary Riley, The Crucible. Hey, The Crucible was a good. The Crucible, if I remember correctly, was about the Salem witch trials.
oh,
Let's see. Just looking at what else. Okay, so he was the composer of Hitch. He was the composer of the remake of Bewitched. So yeah, interesting. Just looking. Oh, the Zero Theorem, which I think was yeah, a Terry Gilliam film. Wonder how far back he was a composer of Terry Gilliam's. Oh, he was the composer of The Company of Wolves,
Oh,
which I have mentioned before. So yeah, No Country for Old Men, the TV movie. So
cool.
in any case, so what did you have a favorite scene that you might like from this movie?
Uh, well, maybe the scene when Jack and Mary were together and it was like they were put to some kind of a test when she took the form of a corpse and he had to kiss her in order to bring her back to her regular beautiful form. It was a bit nasty to see, but it
Mhm.
was one of the more impacting scenes in the movie. Uh,
I kind of like that scene too, but it's not my entire favorite. My scene has always been to me that tentacle scene. Um,
well,
but I like a lot of various scenes, like that one, and then of course
oh,
the one where Duke gets his hair all shocked.
oh, and the spinning bed scene, that one was great too.
That one was pretty great. I mean, it's a scene that you can't really like not get out of your mind anytime soon once you've seen
Uh,
it.
yeah, like when that guy who intended to become a priest, he ended up on that spinning bed with Miranda. I was immediately like, I think he's not becoming a priest after all.
Well, yeah, definitely. Did
Yeah.
you did you have a favorite character that you enjoyed from this film?
Oh, interesting question. Well, I would probably go with Jack and Mary, but I don't know which one of the two I would choose. But yeah, their story was
I like Jack and Mary, but there's something that I like about Peter O'Toole as an actor. I mean, there's a moment where they find him in the morning after he got drunk with Steve Gutenberg's character. He's sleeping in that fucking desk, and he's they're trying to get him up, and he just closes the desk back over himself. I thought it was kind of interesting how such a tall, thin guy could fit in that big ass stationary desk.
well, yeah.
So, but he's an interesting character. I like him. He played in the original Lawrence of Arabia. It's not that it's original. I don't think it's been ever redone, but that was a phenomenal film of the desert. At least to me, um, it dealt with. Uh, we'll have to watch that eventually. It's a long movie, but um, it's good. If you like cinematic films, I mean, I believe it was even done in the times that they still did interludes in between films. You know that series of orchestral movements where
Oh,
it said interlude, and then you can go and have a break.
yeah, I get it.
Because even West Side Story had that back in the day. So um, um, I don't know if you've ever heard of that one.
Uh, I think I have heard, but haven't seen it.
Oh God, we gotta update you with all of these films.
Yeah. Uh, y-
That's okay. I've got a fair amount of them. As long as you know me, we will be. And now that I know that we can actually watch movies in here, we can
oh,
we can watch films together. So, and
yeah,
anything.
you mentioned it. That would be interesting.
Oh yeah. I figure maybe instead of me sending you them, we can watch them together and then go on like afterwards or something like that. Instead of having you make me having make you wait. You know what I mean?
Uh, yeah, well, we could do that. Why not?
So, in any case, did you have anything else that you wanted to share with the audience about this film before we um, close up shop here?
Let me think. I was. I was going to discuss the ending, but I've already done that. Uh, uh, what else? I
Well,
think
I thought it
yes.
was interesting that eventually the walls. Um, I like the scene somewhat when all those bricks from the walls just floated
Oh,
out,
oh
and,
yeah,
and then the rest of his family just kind of crowded around him, and and he was surprised that his father was amongst them.
yeah. That was a good scene as well.
So other than that, I don't think there's much else. I mean, unless I mean, I I just like the stories of the home and the somewhat the story that Peter O'Toole's character, Mr. Plunkett, Peter Plunkett, told with the music that he had in the background in the bar scene. So that introduction to the home or to the house for them to stay the night was kind of cool. So other than
Yeah.
that, I love the look of the house. The look at the layouts of the rooms. I loved
Oh,
how dusty they looked, how old some of them looked.
oh, indeed. Yeah, these last few movies that we have discussed actually made me realize I really like how they portray these haunted houses. I like those interiors.
Well, you gotta have an appreciation for some of these. I mean, even the one that they were murdered in. I mean, look at the four poster beds that they used. I mean, those were what beds looked like back then. I mean, how would you like to have a wooden like four post wooden beds? Of course, they were small as hell. I don't know if you've ever walked through um, an old house that might have been set up to show you a historical value, but some of those beds the people had those were teeny tiny. How the hell did you? What did you sleep with your feet off hanging off the end of the bed or something?
Yeah.
They were more wider than they were longer. And to me, it's like what were there a bunch of short people back in the day?
Well, good question. Yeah.
I mean, George Washington was a large man. I mean, at the time, he was a big man, from what I understand. He was tall. He was. It's not that he was a fat man. He was very broad shouldered and tall. And from what I understand, his face and head was actually relatively huge, which is why he's so huge on the dollar bill. But in any case, um, I think on that note we shall end the discussion. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been entertaining to talk about this movie. This is kind of a favorite in bits and pieces, and I would definitely recommend those of you who have not seen this film definitely go out and see it at least once, if not
Yeah,
more. It's a strange film, to be sure.
yeah, but we like that kind of movies, so
Oh yeah, most definitely. And ladies and gentlemen, if you do not know us by now, we definitely were we were gonna spoil the movie for you anyways. So
yeah, we forgot to say that earlier.
uh, so spoiler alert, ladies and gentlemen, please do not watch this first. Watch the movie and then use this as a companion piece. So
Eh, Yeah, maybe you should put that in the title of the video or something.
I'll put it in the description. In any case, ladies and gentlemen, enjoy your evening and don't turn out the lights anytime soon.
Oh, yeah. Thank